Tonight, as we do every school board meeting, we will start with an invocation that will be led by Mr. Brian Kuhn, the pastor of First Baptist Church of Kissimmee. We will then have our Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Amico Disler from Celebration High School. Our national anthem tonight will be performed by Mr. Chris Everett, and our mission statement will be read by Ms. Sherry Wareka, and translation services by Ms. Belinda Reyes. So if I could ask everybody to please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the ways that you've blessed our community and our school board. We'd be remiss not to begin by saying thank you for all that you've done. And so, God, we are very grateful. And God, right now we pray for our students and our community. Lord, we know that our community is very broken. We have a lot of challenges that we face. So, God, right now I just pray for peace for the students that we have in our communities, Lord, that even though that many of them may be struggling, may have need of assistance, but God, that you would strengthen them, that you encourage them, and you would help our teachers to raise them in spirit and in truth. And we also pray right now for our administrators, and God, we know that it's a God-given responsibility for us to take into to care for our students. And so we pray that you would give them encouragement, that you would give them peace, that you would strengthen them, and that you give them endurance for what they do. We also pray that throughout all these struggles, that, Lord, you'd give us wisdom, and that whatever happens during this meeting, that would be your will. We understand that you are in control of the situation. And so we pray that your will would be done. We thank you for all that you do. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Kuhn. Amico?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for our national anthem. If you want to see Chris and all our other outstanding performers, Arts Alive, April 13th, 2018, at OXA, right? All right. Ms. Royka?
Thank you. Inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
All right. You may be seated.
My name is Belinda Reyes, and I'm here to provide safety services. We know that we need to make security,
All right, we move on to positive comments from the board. Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, I got a few. First off, I want to, I thanked her myself, but I want to let everyone know publicly. I want to thank Leslie Campbell for attending Commissioner Peggy Chowdhury's homeless meeting. You're sitting there. I did thank you. I know you're sitting here last week, and I know that According to some attendees, it was a very frustrating meeting, but I appreciate that you went there, and you and your staff do a great job, Leslie, so thank you all for what you do. I also want to recognize the CTE program. They provided some snacks before the meeting, and their culinary arts students, they do a great job, and they did it again, so you don't disappoint. I'll give you credit for that. And I want to also recognize the Celebration High School boys soccer team. They play again tomorrow. They're playing for a championship. They have got a slamming team, and I'm very proud of those boys. And not in soccer, but I did coach some of those boys in some other sports a while back. And the Celebration High School cheerleading team, they won a state championship this past week. So that's what I've got. And Mr. Booth, I'll send it down back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Soto.
Just good evening, everyone, and welcome, and thank you all for coming.
Very positive. Thank you. Mr. Thacker.
I have no comments.
Mr. Weishauer.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming.
Very nice. Superintendent Pace.
Yes, Chairman Booth, I'll be brief, but I did want to take this time to acknowledge those of you in our community and our guests, as well as our principals and teachers and all of the staff members and board members who really prepared for our Advanced Ed 5-year accreditation review, which occurred in the last week. We had a great debrief with the team. They really talked about the systems that they saw in place and the strategic plan guiding our work. We know we're not there yet in terms of greatness, but we are on our way on this journey and appreciate everybody who contributed to that effort.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. I just would like to say that I'm excited. We're going to have a STEM night at the fair. I hope I'm not saying something you were planning to say in a moment. Good, because I know that. So I know we're going to have STEM night on the fair, Valentine's night. So bring your boyfriend or girlfriend out there and join the STEM fun. In all ways, I think I've made this comment the last couple years, but we will celebrate Rodeo Day in Osceola County. Ooh. Not this Friday, but next Friday. You know, I frequently get questions from our new residents, what is Rodeo Day? You know, it's kind of changed over the years. I would say that when it started, it was all about those teachers and students who were involved, not having them to miss school because we had only matinee performances before the lights. But I think it's changed over the years to a day that celebrates our heritage here in Osceola County. And I think it really should celebrate just volunteerism in general. If you don't know a lot about the Silver Spurs Rodeo Club, you should learn, because the number of volunteer hours that club has given back to this community, the amount of money that's been given back to organizations in this community over the past 50, 60, 70 years, however long it's been going, is enormous. So we do want to thank those folks, and we really do just celebrate that organization, celebrate all those wonderful volunteers on Rodeo Day. So with that, I will, I guess, turn it over to our first presentation of the night, Career and Technical Education Month. Ms. Stefanowicz.
Thank you, Chairman Booth, members of the board, Superintendent Pace. It is my honor to share with you that February is celebrated as Career and Technical Ed Month, and as you know, the CTE and STEM classes that we offer in our schools and our technical college provide students with valuable educational experience and opportunities to earn recognized industry credentials. We have several students here from Celebration High School tonight from the Biomed program that will share the governor's proclamation with you. We have Amiko Dissler, who I'd like to point out was awarded first place in the HOSA, that's the Health Occupation Student Organization. She won first place in health career photography a week ago Saturday at the HOSA competition that we held at Osceola Technical College. We also have Lamisa Wahid. They're going to share the governor's proclamation with you.
Whereas profound economic and technological changes in our society are rapidly reflected in the structure and nature of work, placing new and additional responsibilities on our education system. And whereas the efforts of career and technical educators, business and industry stimulate the growth and vitality of our local economy and that of the entire nation by preparing graduates for careers that are forecast to experience the largest and fastest growth in the next decade. And whereas career and technical education serves as the backbone of a strong, well-educated workforce and contributes to America's leadership in the international marketplace. And whereas the workers of tomorrow are in our classrooms today, career and technical education provides Floridians with school-to-school career connections, helping students experience practical and meaningful applications of any number of skills. And whereas more than 1,400 secondary job preparation students and 185,000 post-secondary career and technical education students in Florida engage in this type of meaningful education.
Move for approval.
And whereas secondary schools in all 67 school districts, all 28 Florida colleges, and all 48 technical centers offer career and technical education courses, and whereas more than 430,000 secondary students are enrolled in one of over 2,060 registered career and professional education academies and more than 15,300 registered career-themed courses, and whereas Florida students have earned over 82,000 industry certifications and over 23,000 digital tools certificates, and whereas nearly all of Florida's public technical centers accepted the Ready, Set, Work Guarantee Challenge to guarantee businesses that their workers will be ready to work on the very first day in the job or will be retrained at no cost to the business or the student, and whereas career and technical education offers individuals lifelong opportunities to learn new skills, providing career choices and potential satisfaction.
Number 33. Now therefore, Rick Scott, Governor of Florida, does hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing February 2018 as Career and Technical Education Month.
I already have a motion by Vice Chairman Thacker. We've got a second by Mr. Wheeler. Any discussion?
Well read, young ladies.
Nice job.
Go Storm.
Nice job. Board, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Congratulations on your posting.
We'll call to the podium now Ms. Belinda Reyes for the proclamation of National Black History Month.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you this bright young woman who is a 10th grader at Gateway High School. This is Deonce Briggs, and she will give you a brief history on Black History Month, and then she will read the Black History Proclamation.
Welcome.
February has been nationally designated as a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our nation's culture and history. Black History Month is observed each year from February 1st through February 28th. Established in 1970, Black History Month is an opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our community and nation's history. And this is a proclamation. Whereas February has been nationally designated as a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our nation's culture and history. Whereas it is important to understand the different origins, culture, and heritage of all Americans. Whereas is it appropriate that all citizens reflect upon, cherish, and sustain the contributions that Black individuals, both past and present, have made to our nation. Maya Angelou, Lou Gossett Jr., Rosa Parks, Thurgood Marshall, and many more. Whereas such creative individuals have given of their very best so we may be sustained and inspired during hard times and encouraged to celebrate and rejoice during happy times. Now therefore, be it resolved that the School District of Osceola County, Florida, does hereby proclaim February as Black History Month.
So moved.
To approve. So I've got a motion by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Weissire. Board, any comments?
Well done.
Nice job, young lady. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll ask all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ms. Waretka, it's your turn. Should we be kind to you
Yes,
as you come
you
to the
should.
podium? Why don't you tell everybody why
but
we
you guys
should?
are always
Yeah.
kind, right? I do want to, we're going to read a proclamation about kindness, but I did want to take a moment to recognize some of our PBIS schools that are our model schools for the 2016-17 school year. And I have some of the administrators in the audience with me today. And those are Denjon Middle School received gold status. Discovery Intermediate was gold status, Parkway Middle School gold status, and Flora Ridge Elementary and Ventura Elementary were silver status. So I had a couple of those people in the audience, if y'all could. Thank you. One of those schools is Parkway Middle School, and last year during Kindness Month, they rallied together. They actually have a student-led PBIS team that works together with their staff member team and do a lot of things on campus. The activities that they did actually reduced their discipline referrals over 50%. Just by focusing on kindness that month. So I'm privileged. Maria Gill is my contact at this school. She's also one of their deans. And I have two young ladies from the school that are part of the PBIS student team that are going to read our proclamation.
We are Gabriela and Shayla Rodriguez from Parkway, the PBIS student team.
Whereas any day, week, or month is a good time to remind all of us of the need to remember that kindness is an essential ingredient in the creation and maintenance of a civilized society.
Whereas in the heart of us all lies the idea that we hold the power of kindness within us, and
whereas by knowing, understanding, and actually using this power, we have the ability to send out a positive ripple that may travel for miles, and
whereas through random acts of kindness we can promote healthy behavior and positive attitudes within our school, and
whereas we seek to cultivate caring, kindness, and compassion within our schools and community through our students and staff members by teaching them to make a difference through random acts of kindness.
Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Osceola County, Florida, proclaims February 2018 as Kindness Month.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Weissteyer, a second by Mr. Wheeler. Board, any discussion?
Yes.
You've been
Well read.
Thank you.
Did a wonderful job, young ladies. And I want to say something. I just want to express that I am a big fan of kindness. As a matter of fact, kindness is my number one reaction to almost anything that happens to me during the day. And I'm an attorney, and it works very well. So when something bad happens or I get yelled at by a client or a judge or whatever, I respond with kindness. And I will tell you, these board members, they inspire that kindness also. Starting with Mr. Wheeler over here, who been working with him for the past 5 years. And he may not have a reputation for kindness, but he is.
I wondered where he was going with that.
He's a kind person, and I got to know the rest of these gentlemen, and they're kind, and so is the folks here at the administration, and so yes, this is a very kind school district, and I'm very, very happy to be a part of it. Thank you for your reading of the proclamation. I have nothing.
Go ahead.
We wanted to challenge you guys in the school board to show an act of kindness this month.
Oh yeah,
Art will do it.
I do an act of kindness every hour.
Yeah,
That's all I could do is kindness.
If I don't yell at Mr. Booth during this meeting, consider me fulfilled.
There you go. There's kindness right there. You think he's kidding? He is.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. And thank you, young ladies. We appreciate it.
Good challenge. It's a very good
quiet.
challenge.
His quietness means he agrees with kindness.
Challenge accepted. We have a motion by Mr. Weissteyer, second by Mr. Wheeler. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, seeing none. Motion carries 5-0. Now we have Ms. Sarah, healthy wage presentation.
You all may remember back in the fall, we did a weight loss competition for those who chose to participate. And we have Miss Brittany Dixon here, our Cigna Wellness Coordinator. She's going to come up and present the winners and
Okay.
talk a little bit more about our wellness initiatives as well.
Cool pants.
Ms. Dixon, right? Welcome.
Correct. Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Dixon, and I'm the Cigna On-Site Wellness Coordinator for the school district. My role within the district is to assist you all with your employee wellness program. I'm excited to present the results for our Healthy Wage Weight Loss Challenge. This is a back-to-school challenge that occurred from September to December, and it was encouraging employees within the district, if they would like to lose weight, it was a very great way for them to stay motivated. If you can see on the slides, we had a total of 73 participants within the program. The program was for 12 weeks in total, and we had an average weight loss of 4%. The average weight loss per person was 8.6 pounds, and the district had a total of 628 pounds lost. It was a great, great challenge. Everyone did a great job. Today, we would like to honor our winners. Within the district, the employees paid $70 to enter into the contest, and the winning team within our district was able to win $1,500, and they are here today. That team is the 212 Gladiators. I would like those ladies to come up. Tanya Snellings, Teresa Stone, Araceli Lopez Rodriguez, Martha Chrislib, and Shannon Callahan.
I gotta ask, what does the 212 stand for?
To 12. It actually stands for 212. And
That was the superintendent initiative back when Melba was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Going over the boiling point.
Yeah.
Got it, okay, I was trying to
The
figure it
Wonder
out.
Boy.
The rest of it, okay, got it.
So we were the 212 Gladiators for the challenge.
We would like to present these ladies with their $1,500 check, as well as plaques congratulating them on their accomplishment. This team was able to lose 5.22% of their body weight, and they were also able to win 75 ribbons throughout the program. Congratulations, ladies.
Get a picture. Dana, get your
Chairman Booth and Dr. Pace, do you mind joining us for a photo? Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out that I think our team would have won, but for the fact that Jay Wheeler's constant late-night texts about working out caused me such anxiety I had to eat.
Throughout the district, the teams did a great job. You can see some of our pictures of teams across the district, our R&B chicks from the Risk and Benefits Department. We also have our Let's Get Physical from the Finance Department. All the teams did a great, great job. If we're looking at our top Osceola teams across the district, we can see our R&B chicks, which is from our Risk and Benefits, received second place, and our Fab Five received third place, and that we included members of our school board. If we're looking at our top 3 employees, our chairman, Mr. Booth.
So you see how I carried my team. Really? Wow.
It was a great, great event. Congratulations. As I said earlier, the employees paid $70 to enter into the competition. But there is a reimbursement window. So if the employees can maintain their weight loss over the next 9 months, they're able to win their money back. So it's actually motivation for them to continue what they started in the fall. So it was really important for us when we decided to participate with this program. A couple of other announcements before I head out. we're excited about this year in wellness. In the fall, we gave back to a lot of the SDOC employees through the Cigna Health Risk Assessment campaign. Over 2,300 employees were able to take the health risk assessment and get a little bit more information about their current health status. Each of those employees were provided a plan of action to help improve their lifestyle over time as well. And lastly, as Dr. Pace mentioned, on Saturday, March 3rd, we have our second annual Keeping Pace with Wellness 5K. This fun-filled event will have giveaways, we'll have local vendors, as well as food trucks, which is very important. And it'll be a fun event for the whole family, so we hope to see each of you out there.
Can you walk that
Yes, you can walk that.
in unlimited time?
Unlimited time.
Same day, though.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
And I'd just like to say, if it wasn't for this challenge, and thank you and Dr. Pace for putting it on, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I feel a lot better, look a lot better, I think, and I appreciate you guys putting this challenge on. So thank you very much.
Ricky, before you go on, congratulations to everybody in the winners from 212. But Mr. Booth, I do want to take a moment to congratulate you personally. I know that you won't sing your own praises, but you've been incredibly dedicated throughout the process and have really modeled exactly what this process was supposed to look like for employees all across the school district. And as a board, we believe in modeling the way, and I think this is one more example of where you shined as one of the leaders of this community in this school district to model the way. So thank you and
Thank
congratulations.
you, Mr. White. Say that in a year, but if I still get to keep this new suit I just bought.
We're counting on that.
Thank you, Mr. Weishire. I appreciate it. We'll turn it over now. Appointments and transfers to Dr. Pace.
Yes, Board Chair and members of the board, I have several recommendations to bring before you tonight. First of all, if we could ask Ms. Brenda Barabee to come to the podium.
Before you do, Sherry Clarence let me know that qualifies as my act of kindness, so check. He just let me know.
I knew you.
That's not why I did it, but he said, hey, you just checked the box. So, Weiss hire out.
But I will remind you, you can't do too many acts of kindness. You really can't.
Amen.
So, board members, we're really excited as Neo City Academy begins to really take shape under the direction of Mr. Meechan, and now he's going to have a partner in crime. As I recommend Brenda Barabee for your consideration to be the assistant principal at Neo City Academy. During her career, Ms. Barabee has held the following positions: Chair and Associate Professor of Science and Science Education at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, Teacher, Vice Principal, and District Director of Career and Technical Education for Fall River Public Schools in Massachusetts, Science and MTSS Coach at Kissimmee Middle, District Science Learning Specialist for the Osceola School District, Program Specialist for District Secondary STEM and Health Science Programs, as where she currently serves. She's also an adjunct faculty member at the Burnett School of Biomedical Sciences and College of Medicine for the University of Central Florida. She received her bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth and a master's degree in biomedical technology and management from Sal Virginia University. And she also holds an educational specialist degree in education leadership from Walden University. She has been a wonderful asset to the CTE team. We kind of hate to lose her at this level, but she's been doing such a great job of pouring her heart and soul into the planning for Neo City Academy, and I am confident that that great leadership will continue.
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Mr. Sacker, a second by Mr. Weishire. Board, any discussion? Mr. Soto, you've discussed everything so far. You don't have anything?
Nothing to discuss. Words cannot express how impressed I am by your credentials. I think that
Oh, thank you.
it's wonderful, and wish you the best in your new position.
Thank you.
So board will call for a vote. All the, oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. If you have any family, or if you'd like to say a few words, please.
First, I definitely would like to thank Mr. Meacham and also Ms. Stefanowitz, really just bringing me in from the beginning on Neo City and learning about the project that I was so passionate for. And then also thank you to Mr. Phelps and Dr. Reinhardt and Dr. Fritz for the time to interview me for the position. I'm so excited about it. And again, as I always share with people, I am one of the few people that has been blessed in the district to go to almost every one of the STEM classes from elementary all the way through middle and the high school. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen at the new Neo City. I have my husband here, Don, my daughter, Victoria, and my other daughter, Megan, is out there working the Arduinos in Arjusat.
She walked in. There
she is. And I don't have my son, Christopher, here right now, but I just wanted to say thank you. And again, it is such an incredible opportunity that I'm really passionate to support. So,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job.
Now, if we could ask Mr. Dombo to come to the podium. Board members, as you know, Mr. Dombo has been serving us well as an assistant principal at OTEC, particularly over the St. Cloud campus, seen a lot of growth there. Formerly, he was a teacher at Kissimmee Middle, a teacher at St. Cloud High, and the dean and the learning resource specialist at Paths. He received his bachelor's degree in science and chemistry from the University of West Florida, educator certification from the University of Phoenix, and a master's degree in educational leadership from Stetson University. And Mr. Fancher is determined to steal him back to become the assistant principal at St. Cloud High School.
Security.
That was not very kind.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. Westsire, second by Mr. Wheeler. Board, any discussion? Just want to make this clear, Tanya, I believe we skipped down to 3.03 over 3.02, that was just fine. Just make sure we're voting on the appropriate action here. So, all those in favor, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries
Good luck to you.
5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Fancher.
I would like to thank the board for allowing me the opportunity to serve our students of this district again in this capacity. Really like to thank Dr. Fritz for causing me to do some introspection in choosing my career path. This was a difficult decision because under the tutelage of Mr. Ott, I have learned a tremendous amount about post-secondary, and I'm really proud of what we did at OTEC. And I will continue to serve to support what we're doing there at OTEC through the high schools. I've already talked to Mr. Fancher about creating pathways from our CTE programs into the programs at OTEC. Mr. Ott's doing a tremendous job. I want to thank Kim Miller, too, for also assisting me in my first year as an administrator. It's not easy. And so I think this is the next step that I need to take to grow as an administrator and to better serve the students of this district. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Mr. Fancher, for believing in me and bringing me onto the team. And lastly, I'd like to thank my family, my wife, Kim, my daughter, Jackie, Allison, Abby, my mom, Kathy, and my dad, Bob. Without the support of this group right here, I wouldn't be standing here today, and I literally mean that. I haven't always been looking like this. And they have brought me to this place. So I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. And go Bulldogs!
Go Bulldogs!
And now, board members, I apologize for getting this out of order, but I'd like to invite Ms. Rhea Ramdath to the podium. As she's coming forward, I am pleased to recommend her for your consideration as our next assistant principal at Point Siena High. She comes to us from a teacher and instructional coach at Madison Middle School in Miami-Dade, curriculum support specialist for science for Miami-Dade, assistant principal at Samuel Wolfson High School in Duval County, and assistant principal of curriculum at Samuel Wolfson School for Advanced Studies and Leadership. She received her bachelor's degree in science from the University of West Indies and a master's degree in educational leadership from Nova Southeastern University. She has multiple skills to bring to the table, including multilinguistic, and we are very excited to welcome her to the team with your approval, board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I got a motion by Mr. Weissire, a second by Mr. Soto. Board, any discussion? Any comments?
Welcome to Osceola County.
Yeah, I just
well,
want to congratulate you on moving up from South Florida.
Yeah. Well, she went to the south, to the north, and now she's settled in the center. So, well, we have a motion. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations.
Good evening. I would like to thank the board and the superintendent for my appointments, Poinciana High School. I'm really looking forward to my new adventure. I would also like to thank Dr. Fritz, Ms. Reinhardt, and Mr. Schwartz, who have been instrumental in getting me to this point. And last but not least, my family, and for their continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Board, he was unable to join us tonight. He flew back to Colorado last night, but I'm pleased to bring forward for your approval as principal at Gateway High School effective April the 2nd, 2018, Mr. James Long. Mr. Long will be coming to us from Thornton, Colorado, where he has held the following positions in Mapleton County Schools: principal at York International School, principal at Mapleton Early College High School, assistant principal and activities director at Highlands Ranch High School, assistant principal at Acres Green Elementary and Castle Rock Elementary. He received his bachelor's degree in journalism and a finance minor from Metropolitan State College of Denver and his initial professional teacher educator certificate from the University of Colorado. He received his master's degree in curriculum instruction, including a K-12 technology specialist from the University of Colorado, and his administrative licensure from the University of Phoenix. Mr. Long had the opportunity to talk with us this morning. He's very, very excited about joining the team, comes to us with experience in an international baccalaureate program, and I am confident he's going to be a great leader for Gateway High School as we move forward.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Wheeler, a second by Mr. Thacker. Board, any further discussion?
Just when is he starting?
April 2nd.
April 2nd. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And then finally, Mr. Ott is here with us tonight. He was working diligently with our CTE folks to put on our CTE night. And Mr. Ott, currently serving as our principal at OTEC, has agreed to expand his role in the district this summer, effective July 1, 2018, with the retirement of Ms. Evans, to take on the responsibility for both OTEC and PASS, our professional and technical high school. Feel very confident that having one leader over those two sites, which are sharing the same facility and have so many things in common, will really help take us to the next level. And Mr. Ott has agreed to take on that additional responsibility with your approval, board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Weisshire, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, any discussion?
There's a lot we could say here.
But thank you for dinner would be good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys for dinner. I know you're up to it, Mr. Ott. So, board, without any further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you. And I would like to thank the board, Dr. Pace, Dr. Fritz, Dr. Reinhardt, Mrs. Stefanowitz, really all of you up here for your support each and every day, as well as my team, some of which are here today, my family, my wife Kim, the little ones, Kaylin and Brandon, parents, Lori and David, my in-laws, Nancy and Rick. Really excited and humbled to have this opportunity to expand my role and step into a new one in a lot of ways to continue what we're doing, making every student future ready. There you go. Thank you all.
I think the board would share in saying we're excited to have you in Osceola County, Mr. Ott, so thank you for being here. Well, we've come to the portion of our meeting where we open up for, Nate, you're not allowed to say anything, where we open for public comment. If nobody has signed up, we can move forward. This also would be a good time to step up and all you folks to move out. And while they're doing that,
you are welcome to stay.
You are welcome, of course. But if there's anybody in the audience that would like to fill out the form, they're in the back by the door. You can bring it. You can bring it up to the board secretary here, and she will hand it over to us. So we'll give a minute for the room to clear out. I don't have anything real exciting going on though. Yep. Nice. Good Lord. All right, I think we got there. Board, we've come to the agenda modifications. Mr. Wheeler. Good. Mr. Soto. Mr. Thacker. Do you have any agenda modifications? Mr. Weisshire? No? Dr. Pace?
We will need to pull item 1501 under Mr. Kruppenbacher, the Neo City land transfer agreement.
Okay.
Will have to come to a later meeting.
Okay. So 15, board members, item 15.1 has been pulled.
Got it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, everything's going very well with that. It's just the county attorney's office is processing, getting me an amendment. I got an email tonight by tomorrow.
Okay.
We're there. Great.
So
I move for approval of the agenda with removal of item 15.1 and the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I'd like you to amend your motion to approve everything but item 11.1. I need to abstain. I need to recuse myself.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And
Item 11.1?
Yes.
amend my motion to add the removal of item 11. That's not the right
Well,
one.
no. He just, Jay is just, is it a,
I got to recuse myself from
which one? Not the monthly reports. It can't be 11.
Wait, hold on. Let me see.
Yeah.
11.10.
The regular
No, this isn't the consent. I'm sorry.
Are you in the monthly report, Mr. Wheeler?
It's on business.
Oh, 14 is a regular agenda item, Mr. Wheeler.
I've got it on this agenda as approved request negotiated result of request for qualifications.
Okay, I apologize. Maybe my agenda was printed later.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, that's my mistake.
I don't know, yeah.
Which one is it? Is it the,
Hang on, let me scan, let me scroll down on what's online. Hold on, I'm sorry.
But it's 11.1 is what he's.
Consent. 11.1, it's 11.11 here online, too.
oh, okay.
11.11.
11.11.
Ah, 11.11.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, it's because of.
I will amend my motion to pull item 11.11.
And this is the job marketing, talent community, applicant tracking systems and onboarding?
No,
Oh,
it's the approved the request negotiate RFP SDOC. Wait a minute.
do I have the wrong agenda?
It's 11.10, I'm sorry, 11.10.
11.10, that's 11.10. Yes, I got it.
Mr. Wheeler's abstaining from everything tonight.
No, I am numerically challenged.
I got it now. 11.10, 11.10, 11.10.
My last two amendments.
No, Jay is going to be abstaining from voting on 11.10, so,
No, we are pulling it from.
Recusing.
We are pulling it from the consent agenda.
okay.
Okay.
Then we'll just go ahead and pull it. We will put it in, we will add it to the regular facilities agenda. Okay?
So I will amend my motion to pull
Wait.
item 11.10 and move it under facilities regular agenda,
Okay, we can do that.
as well as the removal of item 15.1, just since this has gone around.
Okay.
So it's
So
clear.
we will take 11.10 after 14.5. Okay?
Very well. I'll second the motion.
All right. Motion by Mr. Thacker, which has been amended, second by Mr. Soto. All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Information items. We have our 2016-2017 graduation rate update, Dr. Fritz. I thought you could have made all those folks stay to listen to this.
I probably should have,
Yeah,
particularly the high school folks, right?
absolutely.
All right. Should be popping, oh, I guess it won't pop up there. That's right.
yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Dr.
I'm real excited about being here talking to you about graduation rates because this really is a K-12 initiative. We talk about graduation rates a lot of times at the high school level, but recognizing all that work along the way from kindergarten all the way through is extremely important. So for me, graduation rates represent the culminating metrics for a school district. Those are the students that walk across our stage. There are many, many benchmarks along the way, but that's the one that we can hang our hat on as educators. So this first slide I want you to kind of look at, and this is a 3-year comparison slide. I can't see the slide very well from where I'm standing at, but I guess you guys can see it.
I can see it just fine, Dr. Fritz.
Okay. Not only have the percentages increased over the 3 years, but so have our rankings. If you look at that for the 16th year, the 16-17 school year, we're 15th in the state of Florida of all the districts. And that's really impressive. Not only did the percentages go up, but so did our rankings amongst our peers because we're all measured the same. Now this slide shows a historical perspective.
I just want to point out, in case anybody from the media is watching, this is the 3rd year in a row we beat Orange County. So just in case anybody's paying attention, we are ahead of Orange County 3 years in a row. If anybody's looking for a district to move to with good high school graduation rates, please come to Osceola County. Please continue, Dr. Fritz.
Couldn't have said any better. Thank you. Looking at this slide, we go back 10 years. And you can see where we started in 07-08 at 62.5%. And you can see an increase every single year to where we're at now at 86.3. So in this slide, we wanted to show you, because we get asked all the time, how do the district schools do it, and how do the district schools do with charters? And if you look at this diagram, you can see that our district schools did 88 percentage points, and all of our schools together was 86.3, including the charters. And when you look at this next slide, you know what? I got to kind of walk over here to see my slides. That's all right, actually. Look at the bottom number. That bottom number is the percentage increase that we exceeded in those subgroups over the state. So when you look at our disabled students, you can see we did 4.4 percentage points better than the state did with our disabled students. And when you look across that, the one thing that you notice is that we increased and we were higher than the state in every area with our subgroups. Now when you look at our subgroups over the last 5 years, look at that last column. That's the growth that you've seen. That's our ELL, our free and reduced lunch, and our students with disabilities. Now, what's so cool about this slide is because I often are asked about individual schools. When you look at this slide, this shows our last 3 years. But in this slide, we have multiple schools over 90%. We have multiple schools, actually 8 of our 10 district schools, either increased or maintained their percentages. And we'll go back to those subgroups because this is for 16-17 school year. Now you know the challenges that we've had this school year with our students coming in. But we've always had this growth. And I think today at the budget workshop you saw our numbers have gone from about 6,000 3 years ago for EOL students up to projected 10,000 next year. Look at these numbers for EOL. At Celebration High School, our students made a 15.8% graduation increase from the year before. 15.7 at Poinciana. St. Cloud was 11.2. And Harmony with our students with disabilities was a 7.4. When you look at graduation rates, one of the things you also have to look at is your dropout rates and your certificate of completions. It makes sense that as our graduation rate increases, those other areas decrease. So when you look at that dropout rate along that line, you can see that we have gone down with our dropout rates, and our certificate of completions have also gone down. Part of that is because our principals are really, really involved. I will tell you that when a student withdraws from our schools, many of our principals make sure, and it has to be an administrator, but many of our principals take that personal responsibility. They sign every withdrawal form. So as a student says, I'm not going to be in school anymore, that's not a decision we take lightly. We need to know what your plan is if you're not going to be in our school anymore. So they sign those withdrawal forms and we guide them and we try to make sure they get back into some type of program that's going to work for them. So that's another reason why the graduation rates are going up and the certificate of completion and dropouts are going down. And when you look at this slide, this is our got college rate. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. In 2011, We were 62nd out of 67 districts. Now, we're not exactly where we need to be, but I'll tell you the latest numbers show that we're 27th out of 67 districts, so we're moving in the right direction. When you look at this, you can really see how many percentage points we've gained, and look at the surrounding counties around us. While they've not necessarily moved up, we have. And yes, we had a farther way to go, but there have been intentional efforts to make sure that that's happening and continuing to happen. And the last thing I want to say about our graduation rates, and this was echoed when we had our advanced ed accreditation last week, there are systems in play to make sure that students are being successful in our schools. All means all. And when you reflect back on that subgroup data, you can see that our principals and our teachers believe in students. All means all. We're not shying away from those responsibilities. When you see percentage increases of 15.7 for our most struggling EOL students, that means people are taking those kids and putting them in their wings, and it can be done. We know we have ways to go. And I told you in the beginning that the culminating metrics for me and most of us as educators is that high school graduation. 86.3 is good. We know it needs to even be better. Any questions?
Yes. First off, I'd like to first commend Dr. Fritz, Dr. Ryan, the entire academic leadership team, Dr. Pace. I mean, it's outstanding results. However, I expect outstanding results from such great talent. So the question I've got really is more, I'm going to pose to you is, what do you need from us to keep improving? What can we do as a board? What can I do as a board member to help you do even better? And when I say do even better, it means beat Seminole and Brevard County, but as long as so you know what I'm talking about. So what can...
So we did beat Brevard County.
Yes.
I'd like to point that one out. I probably should have pointed that out a little more.
Thank you,
But we did beat them.
I'm glad you corrected that. I appreciate that. By the way, in case anybody's paying attention, we beat Orange County 3 years in a row. But in any, what can we do, or what do you need from me or for us as a board to keep the needle moving?
The discussion that we had this afternoon in our budget workshop really gets us there. It's about aligning our resources and providing adequate resources to meet the needs of our kids and our goals in our strategic plan.
Okay, so to that end, and as long as you're going to go back to the discussion today, explain to me how we have absorbed roughly 2,000 students from Hurricane Maria, though we'll probably end up keeping, is I suspect. What can we do to make sure that those numbers do not have a negative impact on us going forward relative to the progress that we're making? And I don't know the answer to that.
We're continuing to encourage and support our teachers with professional development. We're continuing to try to put more bilingual support into the classroom, at the classroom level, and into small group level. We're doing all the things that we can to be strategic in providing support to those students without it negatively impacting the others, and without ever taking our eye off the ball of also increasing CTE, increasing advanced placement, dual enrollment. All of those forces have to keep moving forward.
Okay, so those students, my understanding is if you're a senior that came over from Puerto Rico due to Hurricane Maria, you can still earn, you can earn a diploma still in Puerto Rico, correct?
Students who are enrolled in a public school in Puerto Rico have the option of electing to earn a diploma from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
If they meet the Puerto Rican graduation requirements as opposed to the Florida graduation requirements. What our guidance counselors and assistant principals for instruction in our high schools have been doing is meeting individually with every one of those seniors and talking to them about their plan. Number one, what is it you think you're going to do over time? What do you want to do next? And then what can we do to help you get there? For the most part, we're trying to put supports in place to give them the best chance possible to earn a Florida diploma with the Puerto Rican diploma as a backup plan.
Okay.
So trying to make sure that they're in the right classes and getting extra support to be successful on these tests if we can. The work that the board is doing to pay for the SAT in March for all of our juniors and at-risk seniors is another big step in the right direction to help these kids have one more opportunity besides the FSA to meet that graduation requirement.
So to that end, Dr. Pace and Dr. Fritz, and anybody who wants to chime in, so if that student gets a public Puerto Rico high school diploma, does that count against or for our graduation rate?
No, sir. the Department of Education has indicated that that number would come out of the denominator.
So, that was what, so, I appreciate everything that we're doing. I mean, the real goal is for kids to be successful. That's what it's really about.
Yep.
And we're doing it. Keep on doing what you're doing. You know, I can't say yes or no if you don't ask me to do something. So if there's anything I can do, anything the board can do, this is why we do what we do. This is the essence of the job, is to get kids to be successful. Thank you all. I appreciate where we're going with this. Just, keep shooting for the moon.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Thacker?
I just wanted to say how proud I am of the whole staff. I know this doesn't start the 12th grade year. In most cases, it started 13 years before last year. I could not be more proud of the team that's here that focuses on this. This is extremely important to the community. It's something Ricky and I had the privilege a couple of weeks ago speaking to the Speaker of the House. It's one of the points we brought up in a pretty short time frame that we had. This says something about us. It says something about Osceola County. When people say stuff about Osceola County schools, there was one this week that somebody had looked and said, I'd really want to move. I found a house in Osceola County I want to move to, but I can't go there because of the schools, for some data she found online. This was able to help change some of those opinions and the thought processes. So this is what we've got to have. Like I say, I could not be more proud of all 7,000 plus employees all the way up. It's every single one of them that made a difference somewhere along the way in these graduates. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'll be brief. I'll be brief because, Clarence, I mean, I couldn't, I can't match your eloquence for the pride that I feel as well. I mean, I'm looking at these charts and I'm seeing, the progress over since 2011 and 2017. And then it's not just the graduation rate, but also, we're promoting to our students that it doesn't end in 12th grade. And that's what it's about. It's about doing our part for our students and by extension for our community and our society in general. And I couldn't be more proud of you. Couldn't be more proud of being having the privilege of being a part of this and the great work that you do, Dr. Pace, and all in your administrative team, your academic team. Really, well done.
Thank you.
I couldn't say it any better. Dr. Fritz, thank you very much. All right, Sarah? You want me to just call him up?
That's the report. Yes.
You go ahead.
We have Richard Pengelly here from PFM, Public Financial Management, our investment advisor, and he's here to present our quarterly investment report.
Good evening. Thank you, Board Superintendent, for having me here. Sarah said, I'm Richard Pengelly. I'm a director with PFM Asset Management, and I'm here to talk about the portfolio performance for the fourth quarter of 2017. Make sure I can read here. As you can imagine, we've been getting a lot of questions over the past couple of days about what's going on in the market. You all, of course, are invested in a fixed income portfolio, not a stock portfolio. So a lot of the volatility we've been seeing in the market really doesn't translate into your investments. In fact, a lot of times when we see this kind of volatility, investors are flocking to the kinds of investments that you hold in your portfolio, which is why you hold those types of investments in your portfolio. It's funny, underlying some of this, or the catalyst to some of the volatility we've seen, is really positive news in the economy. On the first page here, we have some of the key metrics that we always look at for the economy. GDP growth has been very good in 2017, averaging 2.5%, which is about 0.5% higher than we saw in the past couple of years, about in line with what we've seen in the post-recessionary period. Unemployment rate has steadily been going down. We've blown through several levels that the Fed said that would indicate full employment or the maximum level of employment in the economy. Last week we got a employment report that wages actually were growing much faster than we've seen in the past few years. And it was that news really that was the seed or catalyst for a lot of the volatility. The market became concerned that the Fed would actually start raising short-term interest rates much faster than they had originally projected. So we'll talk a little bit about that. That actually implies positive news for your portfolio, given that you're invested in short-term fixed income securities. So not only is the domestic economy doing very well, but internationally we're seeing something we call synchronization. We haven't seen in about a decade, where the U.S. is growing and all of the major developed economies are growing as well. So that particularly helps our U.S. companies, our multinational companies that have customers and business all around the world. We also recently had a reform in taxes that in the short term will definitely be very beneficial to U.S. companies. Part of your portfolio is invested in high-quality corporate instruments, so they will benefit from having stronger earnings, better profits from the tax cut. The Fed, in their most recent meetings, most recent communications to the market, indicated they expect to raise interest rates 3 times this year. That would mean an increase in short-term rates of 0.75%. And again, as a short-term investor, that would translate directly into higher yields in your portfolio. The potential downside of this is that while interest rates are moving and going higher, your market value changes will be negative. But as the portfolio is rebalanced to take advantage of the higher rates, the actual income and yield that you have coming into the portfolio increases over time. So higher rates is a good thing, but your quarterly return numbers will show negatives in quarters where they make big moves. Going into your fourth quarter report, the portfolio continues to be well diversified. We're essentially holding the same strategy that we had going into 2016 or middle part of 2016, which is to diversify into high quality corporate names. To add, extra yield over Treasury and agency securities. You're diversified across the short end of the curve, meaning that you have exposure throughout the 0 to 3 year part of the yield curve. The yield on cost for the portfolio is 1.46 at the end of the quarter, which basically is indicative of what the yield income is on the portfolio. For the quarter, the return was down because we did see rates increase in the fourth quarter, but you outperformed the benchmark by 8 basis points at 0.08%. For the year, the portfolio return was 0.78%, which outperformed the benchmark by 34 basis points, 0.34%. No one ever thinks about yield, so translating that into dollars, the portfolio produced about $1.3 million in earnings for you for the calendar year. As I said, we essentially held the same asset allocation throughout the year. We took advantage of some agency securities that had tightened up in spread that we sold at a gain towards the end of the year, but essentially we're keeping the asset allocations the same in 2018. We also invest a portfolio for your 2017 bonds. That portfolio is structured as an asset liability match portfolio, so maturities are matched to when you expect to spend funds. That portfolio will just spend down over time as you make payments out of the fund. The last thing I'll say is that we always show a report on the portfolio compliance with your investment policy, and at the end of the quarter, you're in compliance across the board with your investment policy. I'll note that we are currently reviewing your investment policy. You last updated it in 2014, so at that time it was positioned for sort of the next few years, so now is a good time to kind of go back and make sure all of the policy items you have are consistent with what we think the outlook is for the market. So we're in that process, and we'll report back to you on that. We're also going through and doing cash flow analysis to make sure that we're optimizing all of your investments versus where we can take them out on the curve to maximize interest earnings. Questions?
Anybody have a question? Mr. Wheeler?
I had a couple of questions. First off,
Sure.
how do you think the fact that the Fed chairman just changed is going to affect any of this?
So a couple things. One, out of all of the choices that were floated out there, Powell probably represents the most likely continuation of Yellen doctrine, which is gradual, slow, exactly, gradual, slow increase in interest rates, slow normalization. Where they differ is probably on regulatory. Views and outlook. So, they'll probably be consistent with the administration overall looser on regulation. So we'll see over time. But in terms of interest rates and Fed policy, we expect more of the same.
And the stock market has tanked in the recent past.
Yes.
Any thoughts about that relative to this at all?
Well, as I said at the beginning, I think you're invested in assets that are the assets that the world comes to. The economic fundamentals look sound right now in the near term. This seems to be mostly a market-driven event. So, as we saw at the end of the day today, the Dow was up 500 points. Okay. So we're going to see probably a little bit of volatility, but that's not going to translate into something having a significant impact on short-term interest rates. If it continues, it might slow the Fed down. So maybe instead of 3 rate increases this year, maybe they take a pause to let some of the volatility settle, and we only see 2 rate increases. But we don't expect to see a significant impact from it.
Thank you, Richard. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thacker?
Just 2 kind of more procedural questions, I think. The investment policy that you're working on, I'm just curious, does that get approved by the board, or is that something that staff just works through? How does that?
It's actually a board rule. So what we'll do is Richard and his team will make recommendations to staff, and we'll bring those to the board as part of a rulemaking change.
Okay. And my other question.
I don't know.
I don't know. Good.
You good?
Yep.
Mr. Weishauer?
What are your thoughts on the GSEs, and particularly with how we have our allocation in like Fannie as an example?
Well, we are comfortable with the GSEs. They're, now backstopped by the Treasury. So, unlike before, we are comfortable with, with investing in them. The challenge we see generally investing with them is that they don't really offer much of a yield spread over treasuries, in particular maturities. Last year, they went through a round of refinancing in the early part of the year, and spreads widened out maybe 5 or 6 basis points, which isn't a whole lot, but every little bit helps. And we did buy more in the portfolio. We're not big buyers of them right now, but that's mostly driven by not really getting much yield out of them.
Any concerns as we look forward over the next 18 to 24 months specific to the GSEs?
We don't have any concerns, no.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Thacker?
I remember my questions.
Okay.
The interest income that we do get, or investment income we do get out of it, from a budgetary standpoint, how do you look at that going into the next budget year?
So we do budget for interest income, and then we just monitor that what we're actually receiving in accordance with budget. So it is already factored into the budget.
No, that's
when
fine.
He says we've earned an additional 1 point something million, that was budgeted.
Right. Well, kind of where I was going with it, and this is more just comment for the board, I guess, is as we look to having to step up our reserve over a little bit of time as our total revenues go up, so we maintain the same reserve balance. This might be an area that we can look at. We roll those back in, just a thought.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir. We
All right,
appreciate
thank
the
you.
update.
Thank you, Richard.
All right,
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you, Richard. Nice job.
So, board, update on the science textbook adoption process? Who's got that?
Just information in your
Just
packet.
information in the packet, okay. Board, that brings us to our regular agenda items. They are under all facilities items. We have 14.1, 2, 3, and 4. There is a motion on here, 14.5, that would carry all of them.
Well, there's also .06 we added also.
No, that could be separate. We could vote 11.10 different.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve all of the items under 14.0 as submitted.
So, Mr. Wheeler, would you call it 14.5?
I'll make a motion to approve item
Okay.
14.05, I'm sorry, yes.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Wheeler and a second by Mr. Thacker. Board, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion 4.5 carries 5-0. So we have the item that was pulled from the agenda, 11.10. Board, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
We got a motion for approval by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Weisshire. Do we have any discussion, board?
Jay needs,
Yeah, I'm recusing myself from this.
you need to.
And I will fill out the appropriate forms as needed as a result of that.
Okay.
Thanks, Clarence.
So, motion, Mr. Thacker, second, Mr. Weisshire. No further discussion. Board, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record reflect that the motion carried 4-0 with one abstention. All right, that's 11.10. Attorney's report, 15.2, capital projects discussion.
Yes. Members of the board, over the past several weeks, Dr. Pace and I have been working very hard regarding an issue regarding the Department of Education and our building plan, with a lot of support from Mr. Clinch and Ms. Blake in the process. Let me frame the issue. A memo came out from the Department of Education which basically said they believe they would now have approval and control of our local dollars, so our sales tax dollars. If you took that memo and followed it, you would effectively shut down a significant number of projects, including one or more that are within what was represented in the sales tax as what funds would go for. Since the memo came out, one by one districts that are impacted are beginning to realize. So people are coming together, and Dr. Pace, I believe it was about a week or 2 weeks ago, the superintendents met in Tallahassee and dealt with the issue. Dr. Pace testified and was up in front of the Senate a week ago, or spoke with senators a week ago. And there is a bill that's going to the conference that would fix this issue. And these are all important pieces of it. The legislature is due to adjourn, I think it's March 6th, right in the beginning of March 9th. Thank you. Following that DO memo, Superintendent of Santa Rosa, Dr. Pace, there was a meeting in Tallahassee that I arranged with the governor's liaison to the Department of Education. In that meeting was Santa Rosa County. We were represented, and Joy Frank from the director of the Florida Superintendents Association, who works for Senator Mumford, who really runs that. We laid out the issues, and DOE has basically said, no, we're right, and it's a legislative issue. So suffice, there's been an awful lot of efforts to move this issue to a resolution. We are at a point now where, and let me just add one thing, to show you the extent of this memo. In Santa Rosa County, they have an entity that wants to give them $30 million to build a high school. And that would be the cost for this special. Under their memo, Santa Rosa is not allowed to accept that and have the high school built. All right, so it's got a lot of ramifications. There are effectively at this point 4 avenues, so I can identify to you, that are options, and I will tell you which I think are not options you should exercise at this point, and what I think, and Dr. Pace agrees, and I can tell you that our counterparts who are in this are agreeing at this point, and why we agree to it. One is to follow the Department of Education memo. If we follow that memo, you will not be building, all right? And you will be stopping projects like Neo City, Michigan Avenue, et cetera. There's a number of them. The next option is to ignore the Department of Education, right? Based upon a number of calls by me personally, as well as in discussions with Tallahassee, we are probably more out front on this, and at this point, if we picked that option, we would be out there alone. Let's assume some others picked it. There's no precedent for what the repercussion could be, right? They could argue that they have the right to wipe out the superintendent's salary, to appoint a committee to oversee the district, to withhold state funding to the tune that we spent funding, and whatever else, drag us in front of the Joint Legislative Committee. My concern with that option is we're alone, it's uncharted territory, and it might inadvertently align our allies in Tallahassee with those who are taking a position we think is wrong, from the standpoint of we can't have an entity outside the home base of Tallahassee challenging us like this. And everybody in education remembers years ago, Dade County challenged them, and they sent in the state auditor general, and they audited everything. I mean, they looked for anything and everything, all right? So I can't tell you, here's the downside. So to me, it's very foolish to play a card at this point, not knowing what risks are on the table. And I want to emphasize, there's a lot of legislators right now, our local legislators, a lot around the state, and a lot of staff people and members of the State Board of Education who all are supportive of our position. The next is to file a rule challenge and/or litigation. Yes, that costs, but more importantly, you don't have a timely resolution to the issue. It's not like you file it and we'll have an answer in a week or 30 days for either of those. And then the last is really one that's flushed out in the last couple of days that I brought forward to people to like, and that is we file a request for a hearing in front of the Florida Department of Education, in front of the State Board of Education. I can tell you, with all due respect for you and any governmental body, on any given day, there's no way that the appointed or elected governmental body knows exactly what the staff is doing on every issue that's going. You know, I've always said, for years, the superintendents and the public do not assume the superintendent knows about an issue if you're upset about it, all right? I mean, you just can't make those assumptions. There's such a complex system that's moving. We would ask for that. If you authorize it, we'd file this week a request that we have an opportunity to come, not only ourselves, but I believe I'll be able to represent the Superintendent's Association, who would like to speak, et cetera, and discuss with them this issue and what we think is not a correct interpretation, and ask the state board to weigh in. I can't tell you when they're meeting because Marva's got to call it, but here's the reality. I would hope that the legislation passes before there's ever a need for the hearing. All right, and it renders it all moot and we don't have to get into it. The other reason I think we need to request for it, should we have to go through the rulemaking or litigation process, the first thing I would do is if I was defending something is say, whether it's right or wrong, you failed to exhaust your administrative remedies. You never asked the State Board of Education to rule on this issue. And they ultimately are the authority, right? So at this point, we would ask that we be able to have the authority to make the request, take the steps we need. We're not going to be filing what I call any kind of an adverse action against anyone, and to ask our lobbyists and engage appropriately. And I'll be asking some of you if you could, Mr. Weishar's offered to help a lot when I met with him, if we could contact some people and we could really push this issue out there into the forefront, that if we don't get the legislature's final vote. Now remember, the bill, we are told that both the Speaker supports it and we know the Senate's there. Unfortunately, it's part of a whole cadre of things that are addressing the prior bill of last year, so who knows what happens when we get to conference. So right now I would emphasize this. Our action would be non-adversarial. It would be to explain our position to the people who have authority to step in and try and deal with it. And it would be what I call that last step before you really have to make the ultimate, what we would call adversarial decision in this process. Now,
Before,
one thing.
oh, go ahead.
We are backing up on dates in construction. We can't avoid it. I mean, even if we filed an action, the only way we could avoid any of those dates being delayed is if we ignored it and just moved forward. All right, now, that's why I was going through tonight again, double checking, what did we say in the sales tax vote to people? Because some of these projects were represented as they would be done. So I have a hard time with the state impairing that local right when the public here has voted, yes, we believe in that. So it's just getting and this is it's a very complex, esoteric issue that you really got to boil it down to an ABC, even for the State Board of Education members and people like, when you talk to them about it, you got to kind of go back down and say, here's how schools get funded and here's what happens. So all we're asking for today, Dr. Pace and I, is the ability to file a non-adversarial request to go before the State Board of Education to ask them to reconcile and resolve this issue.
And Mr. Krummerbacher, I don't see anybody saying no to that, so I believe you have that consent. But however, I think Mr. Thacker does have his light on and would like to.
Yeah, I just, as the board knows, I'm not overly patient in this area with this issue, but I think if it's prudent, we as a board should just at least give a head nod of some direction. But I'd like us to possibly give the legislature till the 9th, which is their last date, which is only like 30 days from now.
Right.
The ability to pass that, maybe it all goes away immediately. If that does not pass, I mean, on the morning of the 10th at 8 a.m., to figure out how we get on the, how we appeal to the state board and event.
Could I ask you this?
Sure.
Mr. Taggart? If
Or if we can get on
those
before.
with, to the extent
Yeah.
there is such a
Make it
thing.
all
Take longer than that to call the meeting.
To the extent there is such a thing as political wisdom, and the people in the legislature who are trying to help us, and our lobbyists and the team goes, it would be better if you filed it now.
Let's file it now. For
Would-
after,
Would you leave that to the
But-
superintendent's
yeah, but-
judgment with
for
me not
after that,
conferring?
after the 9th.
No,
For the
he's
hearing.
saying if they say, no, you need to do it now, even before that.
Do it now. We don't want to have the appeal hearing before the 9th.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
But if we strategically think it should be filed now.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
But not the hearing.
But I don't think we want to have the hearing before the
I'm in
legislature.
complete agreement with you, Mr. Taggart.
Okay.
As soon as we can, if we can file it now and have the hearing scheduled for the 10th where we cancel it, that'd be great.
And
However you do that. I don't know how that works.
I'll tell you, we've all agreed we don't want the hearing before the legislature's done.
Yes, that's what I was
Right.
trying to make clear.
There is one school of thought that we've analyzed and thought, file it now and it helps.
Sure.
We're going to run that back through again because every day we're getting a different piece of information. And Dr. Pace, I noticed had something you wanted to.
Dr. Pace, yep.
Thank you, Chairman Booth. The primary concern, the most immediate pressing dates are the Michigan Avenue renovation project. As you know, currently the DOE has told us that we are to build that school to no more than 694 seats. However, we've negotiated a design, we have a design and we've negotiated a GMP, or are in the final steps of closing that off, that's supposed to come back to the board on February the 20th for the 940 student stations. We do have contingency plans in place that we could shell out a part of that building, but it would require some adjustments down the road. I just need direction from the board as to whether or not we keep that project moving forward as is and come back to you later if we have no progress with this with DOE, or if we take a pause and push that out a semester.
Board, what's your pleasure?
I don't want to amend your opening of any school. I appreciate the caution that we're looking at, and I'm not, it's not a question of, the DOE or us. We've got an obligation to this community, those students, and especially that neighbor, that school, just to be honest, useful life. We did what we were required to do. Again, I can't speak on behalf of the entire board, but in my opinion, we need to continue doing what is in our best interest. Hopefully, we can do several things concurrently, and this will, and we don't get a negative resolution. But meanwhile, we got to do what we got to do. They don't live here. They weren't elected by anybody here. They didn't campaign for this half-penny sales tax. I think that we made that decision already. I can't, and I've got no appetite to slow the clock down and renege on something that we promised the public.
Mr. Thacker?
Excuse me. I guess if the legislative session's only got another 30-some-odd days to go.
Yes.
Till the 9th, I think I agree with what Jay said, is we continue on that path. If we get to the 9th and we've already got an appeal scheduled pretty soon after, we're going to have a resolution, and at that point, we may have to make a very hard decision one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I think based on what the work that Mr. Lockhart and Mr. Clint and the team have done, is that you could do some changes in Phase 2, the renovation of the building, that could get us close to compliance if we were not successful.
We have to be.
I am optimistic about the Michigan Avenue project because of the dates on which it was approved. You chose an architect in June of 2017. We were well down the road for this project, although we did not have our CM on board before the November 6th memo. And in the conversations I had with the DOE staff last week, Ms. Presley, she indicated that there was some consideration for that. I've not heard back a final answer. I did get a call back from her today while I was in workshops with you, and she said she's still working on it, but she does understand that there's some time-sensitive stuff. I just want to be transparent with the board about where we are on that project as we move forward and what those implications are.
No. Anybody else?
I think, just one last
Yep,
piece, I
go ahead.
think when we went out and asked our voters to vote on a half-cent sales tax, we made a commitment to them that this was for a purpose, to rebuild some of our oldest failing schools, And I think we made that commitment, and I want to proceed with that commitment as far as we can. I want to go down the prudent path of trying to get it done properly, but for that 30 days, 35 days, whatever it is, my opinion is full steam ahead.
Yeah, I think I'd feel the same way, Mr. Thacker. All I'd say is that, while I was in Tallahassee, I did get to meet with Senator Broxton of Santa Rosa. I did get to meet with Senator Uckel, who is the chairman of the Senate Education Committee. We did, as Mr. Thacker stated earlier, meet with the Speaker Corcoran. Nobody argues the absurdity of the rule or of the memo of all that. And so, but we know how Tallahassee sometimes works in absurd ways. So certainly I'd say full speed ahead, because I don't think we get to the 9th. We don't have the school done by the 9th. But certainly we all know that this could be an issue moving forward. So I would be on board lining up the meeting, hoping it, and then getting it, making sure it's after the session is over. But I'm going to be very clear, board. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll reserve that statement for later. Full steam ahead, and I'll reserve. What I'd like to do is follow the Florida State Constitution and do the job that the Florida State Constitution told me to do as a school board member. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll say that.
Right. I learned, growing older as a lawyer, that there was a time to show my fangs, and it's not the time yet.
Yeah, sure, I understand.
So I thank you for all dealing with it this way. We're trying to walk through this in a positive way.
Okay. Mr. Krumbacher, anything else?
No, we have an executive session.
Executive session.
that should
Do we need to add another one? What about this bargaining session? Can we add that now with Mr. Krumbacher? Maybe look at a date?
I would suggest that we consider our next meeting, February the 20th, I believe it is, to have an
Okay.
executive session related strictly to bargaining.
Okay. Does that sound good, everybody?
That's great with me.
Yep. Okay. Mr. Krumbacher? All right. So noted. Tanya? All right. Superintendent's update?
Yes, sir, really quickly, just a reminder, tomorrow morning at 7:30, we have breakfast, and at 8 o'clock, our State of Education address.
That's right.
Members of the board are prepared to offer to our community an update on our strategic plan, and the community relations team has done a fabulous job.
Yes, they have.
Organizing and setting up the event. I think it's going to be a very, very nice event. And as a reminder, Chairman Booth, you and I had talked a little bit about the March 20th board meeting that's currently scheduled during
correct.
spring break, if we wanted to have some consideration for canceling that meeting. Staff is prepared to take care of normal school board business without that meeting.
Board, are we okay with canceling March 20th? It is during spring break. I think that's the reason for. Is everybody okay with that? I'm not hearing any objections, so we will note the calendar. I don't believe we need to vote on that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Wheeler.
Question for Dr. Pace.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any idea how many attendees we're expecting tomorrow morning?
There are over 400 people who have RSVP'd.
Wow.
Wow.
And doors open at 7, breakfast is served at 7:30. The program starts at 8. Is that kind of a good? All right.
And our wonderful students from TICA, OTEC, Rick.
We're gonna
Chef
get there.
Luo, they're providing the food. It's wonderful.
Great. So we have no unfinished business. Well, we have lots of unfinished business, but we don't have any on the agenda. We don't have any new business. Board member comments. Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Soto, Mr. Thacker says he does.
I've got a couple different things quickly. At the last coalition meeting, Central Florida Coalition meeting, Dr. Pace and I was there, but there was a group talked who I've spoken to in the past, and it's about, it's basically the ability to provide EKGs for all of our student athletes. What the EKG can pick up is we hear about them all the time, or every now and then where a student playing soccer just drops dead. The EKG, they have the ability to do these for $20 a person, and an athlete, and there's ways to fund different things. And it's really for the high schools. But I'd like to get staff to take a look at what this would cost us as a district to do this. And I will tell you, they've screened 95,000 so far. They did Brevard, a good chunk of Brevard last year. Of those 95,000, they found 71 kids that had this type of heart defect. Of those, all but 8 of them have been treated and are able to return to normal athletic events. And I don't think any of us want to be sitting here with an athlete that, and it's not just when they're doing athletic events. They could drop dead in the classroom. They could drop dead at 24 years old from this defects. Many of these are treatable. So I would like, what the board, I don't know what the board thinks, but to take a look at this and see
Sure.
what it would cost and see if how we value that and see if it's worth it.
Yeah, I think it's worth a look. Do we have any comments on this, Mr. Wheeler?
First off, Clarence, I appreciate you bringing this up. I guess the only comment I've got about it is we seem to have a relationship, a partnership with Florida Hospital. And I would think as part of that partnership, as a value added, this might be something they would like to do just because they value our students so much. And maybe they would do it without a fee because they recognize.
I don't think they can do it without a fee, but we're hoping they pay for a chunk of this. And they had a hospital group in Brevard, I don't know who it was, that paid for a big chunk of what Brevard. This is done in such a way where it's kind of mass-produced, and they've kind of got the system set up.
I'm all for it. I would like to see if we could, to your point,
yes,
we can mass produce it for a lower cost per unit.
Yes,
than,
I agree.
Than Brevard.
Agreed, and that's what I want them to look at, see what the cost is and if it's worth it.
Mr. Phelps and Mr. Adams will follow up, Board.
And one other item.
One other item?
Board, indulge me for a minute. I know we've got some other.
You're not being very kind right now.
Sorry. No, I'm not. I'll try and make it up later and say thank you or something. Ross Jeffries, the facility at Ross Jeffries. Every time I drive by that, I kind of think about this, and I actually had somebody from St. Cloud bring it up to me before the end of the year. But it's a pretty big piece of property, and it's a pretty prime piece of property, and it's a pretty aged facility. And I'm not proposing anything, but other than maybe we should, at some point, maybe take a look at what that thing might be worth. Could that be relocated somewhere? And I would think St. Cloud would be happy to not have that big chunk in the middle of their business district occupied by a non-tax-paying school district. And I don't want to do anything that nets us bad, but maybe there's something worthwhile that could be done there. Just take a look. And I certainly don't mean this to be like the number one.
You want to tear down my elementary school?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. No.
No, I understand. Dr. Pace?
Chairman Booth, you know, we've heard so many times over the years in discussing the Ross Jeffries facility about some initial agreements that might have been in place, might not have been in place, about what we could or couldn't do with that property if we decided not to use it for a school district facility. What I would recommend is that it's time for us to potentially, I don't know if a title search is the right way to go, to see what we could actually find, because I've heard lots of rumors. I know that Rhonda and her team have dug into it, other people have dug into it, but I do know that the city of St. Cloud is very interested in talking to us about that property. They have reached out to me for a meeting in 2 weeks, and I would suggest that we go ahead and get a title search done and see what we've got. But that's my
I've run into this
recommendation.
before where, where we've had property on boards and, we've had deed restrictions, and basically, yeah, Children's Home was, well, that was a family property, but I know the USDA owns some property over in Brooksville, and I served on that board. And,
I'd just like to offer that Ross Jeffries is claimed as a vacant school, and most of it is used for ancillary. So there's, I don't know how many district staff, but a lot. So it actually works in our favor to carry it as a vacant school so that we can have that ancillary property, because we can't easily replicate that ancillary property elsewhere because we're currently over in our ancillary count according to DOE.
of course, everybody's over. But we can't build any schools. Mr. Weiser.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I want you to know that we've already torn down mine and Mr. Thacker's middle school and high school.
That's right.
So tearing down your elementary school.
My elementary. I rebuilt your high school.
We're not going to shed a tear for you, is my point. The one thing I would point out, Superintendent, as you know, is we spent quite a bit of money on that property just a few years ago. And so I'd want to make sure we understand what we already have invested in that, and we don't just look at it purely from what it's worth today, but also what it is we would need to capture in order to make the best real estate decision.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and the other thing is on that, Mr. Wheeler, just if you'll indulge me, is it does include a building that may be registered historical, So I don't believe it has the old auditorium on there, so I know. Where
We had
played the
researched
fun
that.
PE games that are all now banned.
It's not currently on the historical register.
It is not?
No, sir.
So it could be torn down? Well,
Yes,
you
sir.
might hear from the St. Cloud folks if you do that. All right, Mr. Weaver.
I'll be brief. I've been doing this a long time. When I first, unlike you, I got elected countywide twice. When I first got elected, I was approached actually by some Darden restaurant people, real estate people, that were interested in it because they made it clear they like to build restaurants with a street light. That's where they like to put their restaurants. And they weren't interested in the whole property at the time. They were interested in just the front portion going back. I don't know exactly how far, but they were interested. We were using it as a school at that point. There was no appetite at that point. I know the city has made overtures. They would like it. I don't know about the historical registry, but there has been that's the only, since I've been on this board, corporate entity that was actually interested in the property. Again, this goes back 15 years. I mean, they were interested, as an Olive Garden or Red Lobster or something. So,
I'll have to ask Dina at Catfish Place if that's all right. If you sell it to us, somebody's going to build a restaurant.
well, there's enough business to go on, but I just want to share that for some perspective. So there has been interest.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Is there anybody else, any other comments? I would say that I do agree. Oh, go ahead, Mr. West.
Just one comment. I want to make sure, Superintendent, you know where I stand on this, is if I would do anything, and I know we're just having a conversation, I would be looking at that for its highest and best value from a commercial retail perspective, not from an agency to agency exchange. So just so that I'm clear about how I feel about that piece of real estate.
Yeah, we want to get on the tax rolls if we do anything.
Well, any potential sale, I understand. So, but we need to know what the title says. We need to know about what the building says. We need to know, but I guess we need to know that. But then beyond that, we would need to know what it would cost to replace that, and then what the ramifications would be on being over on our ancillary facility numbers. So,
I got more. I've got 6 more items.
I'm sorry, motion.
As an act of kindness, I'm not going to do them.
Mr. Thacker, we expect
Board member comments are limited to 2 items. 2 items. Mr. Thacker, your third and final item, please.
It's a random act of kindness. I'm not going to do it. I'm not.
Oh, yeah, you can. Oh, man. So, all right, so we actually are not adjourning the meeting. We are recessing the meeting for an executive session, and we'll be upstairs, but for all intents and purposes, we're done, folks.
We'll adjourn from upstairs.
And we will adjourn from upstairs. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending.